Hi, I'm Joe, and today I've got what I believe will be my final Halloween build of 2025. This is a rebrickable model called Monsters Haunted Mansion by Rebricked, and it uses 3 copies of the Creator 3-in-1 Haunted House set. Now, I've probably mentioned several times before that as soon as the Haunted House 3-in-1 set came out, I knew I was going to get multiple copies of it because I had faith that the builders of Rebrickable would come up with something super cool. And I may have also mentioned that at one time, one of my White Whale sets was the Monster Fighters Haunted House, which was created and retired while I was in a dark age. So I never got it, and I was never willing to pay the higher prices to get it on the secondary market. But I always thought that that would be a great thing to build for Halloween. And apparently, Rebricked on Rebrickable thought the same thing and has created this wonderful replication of that Monster Fighters model. And I'm excited to show it to you today. So before I get too much into the close-up details of this model, I want to say that I'm not going to do a whole lot of direct comparing to the Monster Fighters model because, like I said before, I don't own it, and I actually don't know a whole lot about it other than I've seen it from the outside. One thing I do know is that that Monster Fighters model does open up dollhouse style to be able to see the interior. Now, this rebrickable model does have some interior details, but it only opens up from the back. And I should also point out that this is situated on a 32 by 32 base plate, which the rebrickable instructions call for. The base plate is the only extra piece you need to add to 3 copies of the Creator 3-in-1 set. It doesn't say which color to use. In the pictures on Rebrickable, it used a tan plate. I don't have any spare tan plates that I was willing to use for this. I think the best color would be dark gray like I used in Wednesday's Mansion, but I didn't have that available because that model is actually built right now. So I just grabbed a green one because the only colors I had available were green, blue, and white, and I think green was the best choice. But let's go ahead and start looking close up at the model. In the front, we've got gate pieces in front along with the chain locking the gate closed. That doesn't mean we can't look closer. There's not a whole lot to show on the ground. There are some gray pieces for greebling, I guess. We've got this little dead tree that's been built, a few of these plant pieces for detail. Around the side here, we do have a small graveyard, which is, I don't know if that was in the Monster Fighters set, but this does resemble the graveyard that was in the original Creator 3-in-1 set. The front porch has the door and 2 windows on the side, and all the windows are boarded up here because, it can't be a haunted house if the windows aren't boarded up, I guess. And there is one slight flaw here. The front door can't actually open because of the studs are too high, so the door is actually placed, I guess, 1 plate too low, but that's not terribly important, because I doubt I'll ever be playing with this model and trying to open that door. In fact, in the comments on Rebrickable, the model designer himself said that he never even thought about being able to open the door, so that was just a slight oversight. Back here around the side, we have a couple of pumpkins and more windows and another side door, which actually should be able to open. And it does. And again, some more dead plants. And looking up, there's not a whole lot of other detail other than we do have a sloped roof over the canopy over this door. Going back to the front, when we move up a level, we've got this balcony type level. There's no access to it from inside the house, but it's a great place to pose minifigures. I just used the minifigures that came with the 3-in-1 set. But if you had other Halloween minifigures, you have plenty of room to display several of them here. Another level up, you kind of have the attic, which also has 3 windows across. We've also got bats in a few places here. And since there was a bat included in each of the Creator 3-in-1 sets, you might as well place them around this model. Here on the other side, we've got more windows and what looks like a chimney. And this is the part on the Monster Fighters house that would have contained the hinges that allow the model to open up. We have some plants growing on the side. And here on the back, there's not a whole lot of detail there. There is one window, but this is actually how we get access to the inside of the model. And then finally up on the roof, we've got the sloped roof piece that's kind of over the center tower here, and the black fencing with the black telescope pieces all around. And before we go look at the details of the inside, I'll just do a little bit of side-by-side comparing between this model and a picture of the Monster Fighters model. And you can definitely see the inspiration in the comparison, where you've got 3 windows across the front on each level. You've got the kind of the tower there at the top. The boarded windows here kind of correlate to the windows with the shutter hanging off on the Monster Fighters model. So at a glance, you can definitely see how one has inspired the other. To look inside the model, we pull back these panels here, and that reveals the inside. And we'll go ahead and start at the bottom level, and I'll turn the light on here. And you see we've got a grandfather clock and a fireplace and a couple of tables here, one with a candle, one with a pumpkin, a lantern there by the front door, and we've got, I don't know, a drawer full of eyes here on the left. And it's hard to tell because we can't lift the levels off on this model. You can see that there's tiles here. That just allows the panel to open, but there actually aren't that many tiles in this set. So making it modular in the way that you can separate the levels was probably not feasible. So this is not something where we can take the levels apart. This is our only way to view the interior. But this is a rather unique staircase, and it's really hard to tell here from the back. And I don't really have a better way to look at it, but those are made of windows and snot bricks. So the window pieces actually serve as the steps. And maybe we'll get a better look from the upper level, which we also access by opening a panel. And let me see if I can get in there. You can kind of see the steps in there, not real well, but that is how a character would get up the stairs. And we have a little bit of railing up here to make sure nobody falls into the pit, and another lantern. In the back here, we have a small pipe organ, and we have the hats on stands, just like in the original 3-in-1 model, which thankfully a commenter informed me that the reason that these hats are on stands is because those hats are used in the B and C models of the Creator 3-in-1 set, and I guess Lego really insists on making sure that every non-extra piece is in the A model, and this was their way of doing that. And then we have candles on the wall and a fairly uncomfortable looking bed, but that's not a bad representation of a bed from the pieces that were available. And on the wall here, we also have another candle, and we have some pictures on the wall, which would be those printed tiles that came in the 3-in-1 set. And in case I didn't mention it before, this model is made with only the parts in the Creator 3-in-1 set, which means that some compromises have to be made. And I've already mentioned about how the levels don't come apart, but the floor here is something you don't want to press too hard on, and is definitely more true for the upper level. But I did find that the floor was a little bit flimsy, but you didn't really have to press down too hard on the middle of the floor. It's part of why there's probably nothing built in the middle of the floor, because most of the parts where you're going to assemble things and attach it to the floor, you want to be able to have some support underneath as you press down on the bricks, or you want it to be out toward the edges where the most support already is. Now, if you just added more parts to it, you could stabilize the floor better, but I realize that with rebrickable, the point is to be able to show what you can build with only the pieces in the set, or in this case, only the pieces plus a base plate. Now, the top level is a little more different for how you look into it. There are so many of these 1x2x3 windows in the Creator 3-in-1 sets that the entire back wall of the attic space here is just windows. And that's one way to see in, but there's no hinges to be able to open it. However, And this is how I figured out how to open it. I just press on that and it goes in, and I can just pull it out and I can see inside. And there's not a whole lot there. Definitely looks creepy with all the pillars in there. But I can reach in, and this piece here, this brown piece, is loose. And we can see we've got a skeleton in here, presumably in some kind of coffin. And lo and behold, we have more hats on stands placed in front of the windows. Now, popping out this panel isn't something I want to do too often because it is a very tight fit, and let's see if I can actually get it put back. And that actually went better than I expected. Thanks for watching my video about this rebrickable model. I really enjoyed building it, and I'm really glad I have this now because the Monster Fighters Haunted House I thought was one of the most perfect sets to put in a Halloween display, but it retired, like I said, while I was in a dark age, and I was just not ready to pay the exorbitant price to get one on the secondary market. But I had hoped that when this Creator 3-in-1 set was released for the Haunted House, that someone on Rebrickable would create a model that would kind of satisfy that itch I had to get the Monster Fighters Haunted House, and I think this really does check all the boxes, and I feel very satisfied that I was able to build this. I've also enjoyed all the Halloween builds I've been able to show you this year, and I hope you enjoyed them too. I know I've got some other builds I want to do, and it won't be long before I'm transitioning to Christmas builds, and I look forward to showing those to you too. But until then, remember, today is a good day to build.